Quickly, the Daily Graphic has on its front page, occultism in basic school, 7 under investigations at Mary Efriye SDA JHS. MPs call for bailouts for DKM customers, and Gregory Afoko to stand trial at High Court. Those are the stories captured by the Daily Graphic. On its back page, though, it says Ghana launches minerals policy. The Find the newspaper say more rot at NAT, and also EC's controversial steering committee. Shrad, three other bodies must withdraw. Martin Amidu. The statement is attributed to Martin Amidu. Also, NDC organizer allegedly defrauds businessman, and government teacher unions negotiations over arrears fail again. That's the Finder newspaper. Ghanaian Times says DKM diverts 77 million cedis into personal investments, and work on Pokiasi Township roads to begin mining policy at last after 100 years of mining. The Daily Guide newspaper says DKM blows 100 million cedis. MPs demand bailout and legalize Kofi Annan, and teachers declare war over arrears. Minerals and mining policy finally unveiled. That's the Business and Financial Times. The Telegraph says seize the attacks on Electoral Commission, Martin Amidu, and accounts for cost of redenomination of all city. NDC tells Bahumi, Dr. Mahmoud Bahumi. Okay, Collins Zalda AG sued. That's the custodian. The head news says give us peace of mind to work, quoting the Electoral Commission chair. And the final paper for the morning, GCAA holds 23rd meeting in Accra. Okay, so that will do for the morning. Let me introduce my guest to you. On my left, I have the boss of City FM. I call him CEO of City FM, Mr. Samuel Atemesa. Good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Morning to you all.
All right, then also we have an energy expert with us. He's here with us every other week, Mr. Kojo Nsafwa Poku. Good morning to you. Welcome to the show. I was very careful. I was going to
It looks like the name is a mouthful for you, but for a Kumasi girl, you should mention this name very easily.
Second girl.
Well, but you've been in Kumasi, so you should know the name.
Yes, Kojo Nsafwa Poku. Yes, thank you. And also we have the Director of Elections, Convention People's Party, Kwabena Bonfe, with us. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Okay, so I'll start with you. I know today marks how many?
Ghana's Day of Shame?
Yes,
yeah.
Ghana's Day of Shame and the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. What happens today, or what does it today even mean to you as party or Nkrumahist?
Good morning to you and our very cherished viewers.
Sure.
And my colleagues on the panel.
Sure.
Today marks exactly 50 years when we set the role of democratic gains and self-assertiveness and right to self-determination backward. Sure. By overthrowing our first constitution. And that set in motion the subsequent overthrow of the Second Republican Constitution, the Third Republican Constitution, to which end we are today dealing with a Fourth Republican Constitution, which some have said is still an experiment, because we are not there yet.
Okay, so what will happen?
Well, as a party, we are holding an event at the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum from 11 a.m. prompt, where we would have some of the elders of the party who lived then and were actors share with us the experiences of the day, what they went through, what happened, and how they took it. And the keynote speaker will be the man who is leading the charge of the CPP into the 2016 general election, Mr. Ivor Kobna Greenstreet. He will share with us his views of how backward we have gone as a people and what we have lost, and then reenact, if you like, the vision that he has expressed to want to share with the Ghanaian people with regards to, ensuring that we never go back into that dark day, and then more importantly, what we ought to be doing today to regain our right to self-determination, to regain our right to control and manage our resources.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And you know, the sharing of the gains out of that.
All right, thank you very much. So this story, we'll move on to the newspapers now. This story is captured by, I think, five newspapers this morning. The biggest newspapers are carrying all of them. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, as a DKM, and what Ghanaian Times says, you know, DKM diverts 77 million cedis into personal investments. BNFT says 77 million. Daily Guide is saying 100 million. But MPs demand bailouts. Graphic is also saying MPs call for bailouts. I want to start with Mr. Samuel Atamense. Why must government, I mean MPs, in fact, demand bailout of a microfinance company that has mismanaged? Of course, Bank of Ghana already, you know, they take some monies from the companies when they assess, which of course they give out to. Why are MPs interested in this?
No, even before you end, this DKM thing is not a story I have followed. So in all honesty, I wouldn't have an opinion on that. So
why are MPs? All right, don't worry, you're excused. Yeah.
Well, MPs, if you look at the MPs that are demanding the bailout, MPs from the Brown and Half region, election year, they want to do politics with our money. Look, let me read something, and today is a very sad day. Let me tell you why it's a sad day. You know, because, well, sad day for what Kabila said, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah being overthrown, but it's a sad day because we have an MP, and I will want to read a part of the Daily Guide, what Daily Guide quoted the MP said. The MP said that government did not do an oversight. You see, he said the MP of New Jobin, South, member of Finance Committee, to even make it worse, right? Dr. Asibe Yeboah now said that government failed to do proper oversight. An MP saying that government failed to do a proper oversight. Who is government? He is an MP. He is a member of the Finance Committee. What have they done? What did they do? They are the problem. Not who is government? What government are we talking about? Okay. Now, if they want to do bailouts, they should use their common fund to no, seriously, it's from their area. If you look at the MPs from the Brownfield area, why should government go and bail out if somebody? There's one instance where there's a poultry farmer. Okay, he sold all his poultry stuff to go and invest in DKM. You are doing good business where you are earning a small margin, and you want to go and make double margin, 40 to 50%. What business can you invest in that you make 50% in 2 months? They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing was not right, but everybody jumped on a bandwagon. And look, what happened to them is unfortunate, yes, but so be it. Let's not try and use anybody's money. Teachers are going on strike for 15 million Ghana cedis. 15 million Ghana cedis. And we want to go and bail out people who are greedy? I'm sorry, but these MPs should bow their head in shame, because look, yesterday when the finance minister went to the floor of the House, there were 2 MPs that sat here sometime last week and said that, oh, nobody knows how much is being collected for the toll recovery levy. And they said, oh, Parliament could do better to us. Parliament could do better to us. Why couldn't they ask a much important question? How much has accrued to the country from the debt of monies collected for the toll recovery levy, so that Ghanaians can have a bit of respite in the cost of fuel? Because I think even if that levy is taken off fuel prices, it will help us. Nobody is attending to that, and they want us to go and now draw money out for a bailout for somebody who went and looked for money and didn't get. Please.
Okay, all right. I mean, Kabila, I'll come to Mr. Mensah. I mean, just to talk about, you know, the microfinance operations in general. But I don't know if you follow the story. I mean, of course, a microfinance company swindled, I mean, number of hundreds of customers, and now the MPs from the area in Kranza and the like are asking government to rather go and bail them out. How so? Why should people even agree to this?
I'm not too sure if the words and the terminologies that we employ, as in
Daily Guide, the same words have been used by Daily Graphic.
I mean, so I'm saying I'm not too sure if the words that have been employed are the appropriate ones.
Okay.
As in swindling, and all these things.
Okay.
You see, Kwadwo makes a point, which I have made on this platform before. We have interest margins or interest rates that the banks offer as official.
Sure.
Now you go to a microfinance company who offers you way beyond that. and you don't consider that it looks too good to be true. And so you run into it. I know of a friend who actually went for a loan and went to invest with the hope that he was going to double the amount he has taken from the bank as a loan within a period of 3 months, pay the bank the loan that he had taken with the interest that's on it, and make profit. It ended up that it didn't end the way he expected it to end. I mean, sometimes we must be careful. If you look at the caliber of people, sometimes you say it is peasants and people who are less endowed. You have lawyers, you have pastors who have taken collection from church members and have invested them in their names. You know, it's a worrying situation that we must all check. But I think that Kwadwo must also be a bit fair to the MPs. As much as I understand that, yes, they may be wanting to do politics, but what's a big deal? It's a business to do politics anyways. They have constituents who have petitioned them. So they must be seen as working for their constituents.
They must be seen as working. But do you support the bailout?
I don't know what everybody means bailout.
Comes in and pay them some of the money.
Government should bail DKM. To go and give the money to the people who've lost money in
DKM. That's the point.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand what you mean by bailout. So, I mean, to that extent, I may not agree with. I mean, that government should take responsibility for the private company.
Yes. That's the point.
For what?
They have lost money.
For what?
And their MPs must.
No, you see what happened in Parliament. I couldn't watch it because yesterday there were a number of activities that I was engaged in.
You are preparing for today.
Yeah, but you know, no, truly speaking, the Bank of Ghana owes us a duty. They have responsibility, and it does appear that even the Bank of Ghana is coming under the Ministry of Finance. That is why it was the minister who went to Parliament. I was expecting the Bank of Ghana governor to be the one answering these questions and what they did in terms of their inspectorate unit or division all this while. Because the answers that I've heard from the Bank of Ghana, I don't find them satisfying. Sure. But I agree with Kwadwo that our MPs need to do more. Because honestly speaking, in terms of the oversight, that responsibility, I don't think is being done the way some of us expect that Parliament should be more, strong and tough.
Okay.
In demanding accountability of the executive on behalf of the people of this country.
Okay. Samans, this one I know you would be able to answer. It says this is the Daily Graphic. It says this, that they said just as the government responded to disasters such as floods and national emergencies, I can't believe laughing, I find it so funny, emergencies, it should rally to the aid of the victims and offer a financial bailout to them. So a microfinance company operates, right? Whether it's DKM, whatever, and I mean, they bolt with the money or this one, they've diverted the money into others. Yes, a lot of customers are affected, businesses are affected. Now, government should come in. The reasons they are giving, government goes to the aid of, say, victims of an accident, floods and disasters, so they should come to their aid. Does it sound legit?
Well, I mean, I think Kabila makes a point about MPs working on behalf of constituencies. And these constituencies are made up of citizens who have interests. And I think that, in all honesty, I don't find it out of place. I do not find it out of place if MPs are calling for a bailout for the customers. And I'm not saying that it's incumbent on the Bank of Ghana or even the government to do that. I'm just saying that it's not unusual, because in the United Kingdom, in the United States, we have seen bailouts from government for financial institutions. We have seen it happen.
But under different circumstances.
No.
Okay.
But I never mentioned the word customer. You are introducing it.
Okay.
I was specific. I said for financial institutions. I don't know whether you heard customers. And I'm saying that, again, let me repeat. I'm saying that I am okay with the call for bailouts Again, I didn't say bailout for customers. The reason I'm saying this is that we always believe that the endorsement of the regulator on the operations of participants in an industry gives security to patrons. So I ask the question, would it make a difference, for instance, if you see a tertiary institution which is accredited by the, what's the name of the tertiary? National Accreditation Board versus the one that is not accredited, which one will naturally come to you as your choice?
Absolutely.
Is the one with accreditation, right or wrong?
Absolutely, you're right.
Because your thinking is that the accreditation gives it a certain standardization and protection. So I'm saying that if there's an organization that is seen or portraying to be under the regulatory network of Bank of Ghana, I will believe as a normal citizen that it is going by the rules of Bank of Ghana. This is what I'm saying. And there are vulnerable people in our society. Not all of them have our kind of education. And you see, for us as a country, it's alarming because this wouldn't be the first time this thing has happened to us.
Absolutely. DG Capital, you know. So
what it means is that we never learn. We never learn from anything. I would imagine that the ones that happened on before, we will pick those ones and use that to either alter the regulations or the relationships between these microfinance institutions and the central bank. You understand? What levels of insurance? What do the insurance cover, for instance? Because even with banks and other non-bank financial institutions who give the regular interest rate, they are suffering already. How much more the ones that give you a pyramid-like interest rate? And at times, we all, not just the authorities, we all, media, everybody, we watch. Like you were saying, clergymen saw it as a huge opportunity to double their money. They put their money there. Politicians did same, teachers. You see, but for me, it's the vulnerable. Who protects the vulnerable? And whether we like it or not, it's a problem for our society. Because today is DKM. Watch out. Only a few months from now, another company's name will pop up.
And I think already they've seized more than 70 microfinance. They've seized them from operating. From operating. So it means there's already problem there. But Mr. Kojompo, Kojopoku, yes. It's like it's not the first time. I remember Makola, traders from Makola had besieged the offices of DJ Financial Services in Osu over the same issue. They locked their offices up. The reason the guy assigned to was that his friends had taken the money and they hadn't paid back, but the people wanted their money. Now they've shut the place down. The people never got their monies back. Now, if we decide to bail them, won't those who have also suffered a similar fate come back and say, well, you've done it, you are doing it for Kweku, so do it for us?
Exactly. Well. So that is why, to me, yes, like my brother said, there can be a clarion call by the MPs to be seen by their constituents as doing something on behalf of them. But to me, it's a non-starter, because if you said there's a dominoes effect. There's been various instances where there's a lot of, in Kumasi, there's quite a few of them there. In Accra, there's quite a few of them there. In every part of the country, there's someone somewhere is affected by a similar instance. So everybody will now cry for a bailout. To me, DKM is becoming quite out there, because I think the amount involved is huge compared to the others. But it's neither here nor there. I mean, they went in, they placed their bet, they lost. Simple.
Okay. What about Bank of Ghana? I mean, then they should be doing more, because they give these, you legitimize it by the certification and the like. The supervisory role seem to have been lax.
Well, I think DKM became much an issue because initially there was an attempt to politicize it.
Yes. They mentioned the, yes.
And it's sad. I want to believe that I think we all marching along a certain line.
Sure.
That number one, we as a people owe it unto ourselves to be more vigilant in our financial dealings. The issue of vulnerability that my brother Sami talks about, may not apply to all the people that we have under the category of some of the institutions that have, you know, if you like, taken advantage of people.
Okay.
And given the history of such institutions in our country, we should all be minded. We should all be minded. I mean, I keep saying something that looks too good to be true cannot be true. The banks are saying that we are giving an interest of 25% maximum. That's what the Bank of Ghana has issued. Someone comes to you and says, within 3 months, I'm going to give you 75%. What kind of business are they going to do in this country called Ghana that will make them almost, you know, raise it about 5 times than what the banks are allowing? Okay. So, I mean, it's incumbent on all of us. But my critical issue has to do with the Bank of Ghana's monetary unit. Because you see, these companies operate over a period before these issues are detected.
Because you have to audit them.
The monitoring unit, it is not just enough to license or accredit. So yes, I may go with your accreditation, but having been accredited, are you meeting or matching up to the standard of the accreditation? It is incumbent on the Bank of Ghana, that's why we pay them anyways, to keep the monitoring eye on these institutions and how they operate. But my last point is this, that, you know, if we learn sometimes to live within our means and be content with the little that we have. My brother Kojo makes a point that, you know, the person wants to turn rich overnight. Sometimes it's also an issue. No, Sammy, I'm telling you, what on earth would make somebody go take a loan of 25,000 from the bank to go and invest in a financial company with the hope that within 3 months he is going to make 75,000?
If it's endorsed by the Bank of Ghana,
no,
I'm not. You see, just take your time. The word "if" is a conditionality.
So
I am saying that if the company positions itself as a certified operator under the supervision of the Bank of Ghana,
I get that.
We don't blame it on people's greed. It's not magic.
Yes, I know. The point is
no. That kind of sweeping judgment to stop.
Can I finish?
Listen, the people who find themselves in this situation, they are not stupid.
I get the point.
So let's not do this sweeping statement that they are.
I mean, like you say, you can get certificate.
They did not promise magic.
Exactly.
They didn't promise magic. It's not magic. They explain to people. Indeed, we have newspaper publications of DKM promising people what they will offer.
Yes.
Who went to the newspaper to say that what you are promising is illegal? What I'm saying is that there are vulnerable people in society. For instance, look at the issue with Ghana Education Service. Okay, 400 teachers with face certificate. Yeah. And you are going after the teachers without going after Ghana Education Service. Who certified them? Who admitted them? What processes do they go through? How come the people with face certificate did not go into nursing? How come they not go into other areas? Because they saw that there was a loophole.
Okay. But who says there are not some in nursing?
No, we can only talk about what we have found out, unless you know what we don't know.
You see, Sammy, you make a point which contradicts this subsequent argument you're making. I come under the certificate of the Bank of Ghana, and I promise you 75% interest within a period of 3 months, when in fact you should know, or you ought to know, that the Bank of Ghana's highest rate is 25%.
How am I supposed to know?
No, I know.
Please,
what are you talking about?
No,
you see,
let's put this perspective. The people who are foul of this, it's not the gullible.
Sure.
There are people, lawyers, pastors, educated people who knew what they were getting into. Look, they hedged and they lost. That is what it is. To me, I think it is. I mean, where I'm disagreeing is this. See, Bank of Ghana certify your banking operations. Bank of Ghana doesn't certify your business module.
They supervise.
Yes, they do, but they
supervise your operations, and there's a whole department.
So I am not exonerating the Bank of Ghana.
Precisely my point I'm making.
I'm not exonerating the Bank of Ghana. Neither am I excusing or precluding those who have also found themselves in this situation out of the you see, it's a chain.
So on this table,
no, it is a chain. I admit.
So why do you think
if you met a policeman dressed in uniform at the Flagstaff House Junction, stop your car and take something from you, you would give because he's in a prescribed police uniform. That's the point I'm making.
Well, but I will take a second look. I will take a second look. I will take a second look. Even if it's in front of the police headquarters.
I'm saying that
the
onus lies on the regulator.
So on this table, at least
protect the vulnerable in society.
Bailout?
Why?
No, bailout.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying that I want. There's no such relationship. No, there's no such relationship that exists. In the US, in the UK, they have that kind of relationship, and the processes that you go through, even to establish the financial institution, makes you connected to that relationship. We do not have such relationship.
No, we must relate. In the US and the UK examples that you gave, there were exceptional moments and times
that's what I'm
where
saying.
the government felt that it had a responsibility.
Yeah,
because the entire economy was
that's what we're saying. Of course,
and so
that's a different circumstance.
So we get play cha-cha out
no bailouts, but MPs.
I never said they should bail out.
So we're going to move on now to thank you very much, please. Thank you very much. At Shraj, 3 other bodies must withdraw, Martin Amidu, and also stop the mistakes, Professor Martin tells EC chair. I want to start from you. I'll start from you, Kabila, if you don't mind me. Mr. Martin Amidu is asking the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Shraj, the National Media Commission, and the National Commission for Civic Education. I mean, since we have an NMC rep here, give a representative on the NMC. What do you think?
Again, I'm just seeing this one for the first time.
No, but you know the story about the steering committee.
I do very much
so. So this is in relation to the steering committee that you should withdraw. I mean, given the scandal that has...
No. I don't know how...
Mr.
Martin Amidu comes about with these specific institutions. I don't know what's the issue.
He's trying to say is that
he's saying that they are independent.
They are independent bodies who, when it comes to election, go ahead.
Okay. No, he's saying they are independent bodies, right? Yeah. And EC itself is also an independent, and so they shouldn't even find themselves on that bodies as a steering committee, as a sub on that committee.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think?
Let me say again, I do not know what Mr. Martin Amidu knows.
Okay.
So I will speak regardless of his position.
Okay. Whether it's a good thing.
My understanding of this whole steering committee thing, indeed, I had gone ahead to put up a post on my Facebook page, which read that if IPAC is already in place, why take the trouble to replicate IPAC by setting up another steering committee?
So this is IPAC non-political, sort of.
Wait. So you see, that's what I had written. Yes. That's what I had written.
Okay.
But on second thought, I had to withdraw because my new understanding showed something different. So EC says that...
did you come to?
EC says that we have 2 sets of stakeholders. The political partisan stakeholders, which we put together in the name of IPAC, and then the non-political. And the non-political would be organizations that interact with the EC in the process of electioneering. So all the 18 organizations that the EC has mentioned. Now, EC says that with these organizations, we do have engagements with them at times that are few and far between. But the only challenge is that we haven't been able to synchronize our engagement with them. Like the last district level elections where Ghana Education Service was called upon, at which point they also had on their schedule, I think there was some examination that required the use of teachers for invigilation. So they would say that, well, we are not available. There are other instances that the EC mentioned. Now, EC is saying that, okay, in order for us not to find ourselves in this position again, why don't we put all the stakeholders together into a committee?
Sure.
And then schedule a monthly engagement meeting to synchronize everything so that nobody is taken by surprise. Again, this is my understanding.
Sure.
Which called for the setting up of the so-called steering committee.
Okay.
Now, if indeed this is what it is, then I do not have a problem with that.
But
if
where
indeed that's what
yes,
yes.
She's come out to see if there's an information sharing platform.
Now, what then is wrong with it? For me, what is wrong with it, and what I have always determined as a problem with the EC, is the mismanagement of communication. And I have said on different platforms that they should close down their whole communication department and start it afresh. They should update it with more. Look, 2016, today, 2016, is the EC on any social media?
Actually, I've seen. Oh, okay, their website. I know their website. They updated.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the EC itself has to do more with their communication. One, you have a nice idea of bringing all these stakeholders together. What stopped you from getting a buy-in from the IPAC? Sure. What stopped you from say? I mean, it's not like it is required by law, but to further transparency, what will stop the EC as an institution from just communicating that this is the essence, this is what we are going to do, and all that. Now, the issue of the national service person who turned out to be a card-bearing member, we were all alarmed. But I say that there's a bigger alarm. Because you see, this person would only go for the steering committee meeting and go and report to a certain Michael Pesa-White, who is an attempted candidate on NDC.
Yeah.
So, what have we done to ourselves? If this man, even if this guy were not NDC, the final decision will have to be taken by somebody who's NDC anyway. So I don't know the whole, and when I hear things like, let's dissolve the committee, I actually do not understand. Because the EC will work with the police anyway. Sure. They will work, all these organizations, the EC would work with them anyway, whether there's a committee or not.
Okay, all right. Mr. Poku.
Right.
Same with the withdrawal. Will that make any difference?
No, what Matnamidu is saying is that there is Chirag and all these institutions are independent body. Sure. Whenever there's a conflict between the political parties and the EC, they are the ones that come in to mediate. Sure. If you rope them into a committee or a steering committee, which is now a subcommittee of EC, sure, it implicates their neutrality. Yeah. So that if there is an issue, how can those people, the Christian councils that we rely on and all these bodies that come in to mediate impasses between the political parties and the EC, how can they now have the justification to come in? Because one way or the other, they are part or be seen to be part of the problem through the steering committee if there is a problem. From what my brother said, you see, from what I heard, there was a letter written not only to Christian councils and all there were a letter written to the political parties. So why, if you are trying to create something parallel to IPAC, okay, why write to the political parties? You shouldn't write to them because it's got nothing to do with the political parties.
But it's not parallel to the...
Well, from what you said, I'm just taking it from what you said. You said that from your understanding is that, and to me, I'm learning from your understanding, and to me, it's what enlightens me a little from what you said. And I'm just taking from what you said, so please don't get me wrong.
But I never said it's parallel to...
No, I'm saying it's parallel. You are saying that...
Based on what I said?
Yes.
No, I never said that.
Okay. Okay, let me get this right. Your understanding of the situation is this. There's IPAC, which is a political party. Okay. Mm-hmm. They are trying to form a committee which will not have political influence.
No. There are stakeholders that they work with already.
Right.
But they work with different timetables, which are spread across with no particular schedule. But they realize that there are times that some people are left out because of communication imbalances. So let's put everybody together
in one committee. Which will be parallel to IPAC.
I don't know about the parallel.
Well, which will be running at the same time as IPAC.
Not on the same issues.
No, not the same issues.
Not on the same time. Even if they dealt with the police alone, they'll be running parallel to somebody.
Well, that's fine. So what I'm saying is that then why write to the political parties to bring a nomination to that committee? That's where the problem started. The problem started with the politicization of that committee.
Well, they were not expecting the person to be sent.
I'm just saying that.
I mean, they didn't expect that. I mean, of course, they were going to send an NDC member to join the committee.
But they never wrote to the political party. No political party has been written to. I don't know where you get this from.
They
wrote to the National Service Secretariat. What NDC was saying is that if you needed somebody from NDC,
you write to NDC.
To us.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what we are saying.
That's what.
And I'm just saying that the communication function they have to do something about it.
Yeah,
because it's not the first time.
Will withdrawal make any difference whatsoever? Before we come to whether the EC woman is making too many mistakes or is talking too much.
Well, if she's talking on this matter, I guess then, I mean, she has got to be a bit careful. I say so because, you know, in discussing electoral matters, I have always cautioned that if you're not careful, you end up jeopardizing the entire electoral process. Because the critical machine that runs the elections for us or facilitates the electoral process is the Electoral Commission. So that in discussing them, if you are not careful and you are seen to be bastardizing the commission, you end up putting the entire process in difficulty. But that is also not to suggest that when the EC is towing a certain line, we cannot talk about it. And that's what I want to say. This independence of the commission as enshrined in the law per Article 46 is not absolute. We are running a constitution, and every creature of law is to be governed by the law. Now, the commission has a 7-member, the Electoral Commission is made up of a 7-member commission. The same, yes, you see the chair, the two vice chairs of the commission, and then 7 other members of the commission. You are setting up a steering committee with the number 18, who would include the 7-member commission.
Sure.
Meaning that you are already outcrowding the members of the commission.
Okay.
Who, as
that's an interesting way to look at it. I mean,
who, as to Article 46 of the Constitution, are not subject to the dictates or direction of anyone. So even at IPAC, when we are taking critical decisions there, we are minded of how the language is couched. And I remember I served on the reform committee that the Electoral Commission set up to suggest electoral reforms after the 2012 presidential election petition. Mind you, one of the suggestions that came to us as a proposal was to consider legalizing IPAC. We sought opinions of some senior lawyers and judges, and the advice was that it will be in contravention with Article 46. So the idea of even legalizing or giving IPAC a legal mandate or constitutional leg was abandoned at that level and said it should remain advisory. But what we must urge the EC to do is that once we have taken certain decisions with them, they might as well try to comply or live with those decisions that are made.
Okay.
Really, what that steering committee is set to do, I don't know.
Information sharing.
I do know from our last IPAC meeting that there are members of the commission who don't also know. That is a problem. Okay. And so when we met at the IPAC level last week, the chairman of the commission was not around. We were told that for some...
Well, you were in that meeting?
I was in the meeting.
Okay.
For some reason, she could not partake. And when this issue came up, and all the parties...
The rep couldn't answer.
See, no, the parties were all unanimous. We were in agreement on that subject, that we didn't know what was happening. So the EC representatives present said that they were going back to the drawing board and come back to us on that issue with some explanations that will. And I remember Honorable Ofusu the first vice chair of the NDC, make a point to the effect that they felt embarrassed that they have been drawn into the matter as though the NDC had met with the EC to discuss setting up that committee, blah, blah, blah. And that if there had been broad consultation, perhaps some of those mistakes would have been avoided. And it was Honorable Osebon Suamua, the chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation of Parliament, who drew our attention to the fact that the composition of the National Media Commission at the earlier stages was a problem. But subsequently, they amended the law to make sure that if you held a certain position hitherto, you could not be admitted on the commission, which settled those matters. I think that the Electoral Commission is not handling this matter too well. Okay. So then, do you share the view by Professor Marty, the moderator of the Presbyterian Church, Professor? Well, I'm expressing my view. No, he's saying that the EC is making too many mistakes. That's what he's saying. I mean, I'm not. Let me make my view. I don't want to be cast in the shadows of Professor Marty. I'm speaking as Kwabena Bonfe. Is the EC making mistakes? I believe that. That's my question to you. No, I believe that in this instance, the EC is not handling this matter well. As an institution, I don't want to label or name the chair. It's a commission. And I believe that they have the capacity to sit down and work things out. And I also want to urge us all that in discussing the matters, we should be careful not to make very emphatic statements that in the end, we'll have to come back to swallow. Because today, I've heard some people who demonize Afarijan. Now comparing Afarijan to the woman, I think they are different people with different backgrounds, and they have all come to head. Afarijan came to head the commission in a different milieu. Charlotte has come to head the commission in a different milieu. And I want to look at her within the dispensation. I want to urge them that please, the commission has the capacity to work out. And lastly, we have limited time. Absolutely. November 7 is not far from here. Even the law that should go to Parliament to make us shift from December to November, it hasn't gone. Okay, all right. Thank you. Your point is well made. Professor Marty is not just any person. He is the moderator of the General Assembly of the President. And he is. I don't know why you can't accept what I'm not talking to you. No, I've moved on. I've moved on to. I'm moving to. No, I've moved on to. You want to try? I'm building my point. I'm building my points. Thank you. I'm building my point. That he's making that statement. He says this, and I'll quote: "The chairperson of the Electoral Commission presently makes too many mistakes, and I hope that she'll minimize her mistakes. She also talks too much." She talks too much. If we need information from the Electoral Commission, they will have to give information, and especially with what's in the public domain, you'd expect the EC to. And already, someone talks about the fact that their communication itself needs a lot of help. In fact, they should probably. I would have expected Mrs. Osei, when she came into the position, to do a branch and root review of the commission. Okay, communication, basically how information is disseminated into the public and all that revamped. Basically, there seems to be it's a big public institution, mind you. It's not a private institution. It is, so even if she did, you and I wouldn't know. But we are seeing what I'm saying. You are seeing the same sort of Afarijan style entrenched position where no, seriously, because you see, look, when EC in the past, all we've known about EC is that EC comes out with an issue. When political parties now, there's an entrenched that no, we are right, we will change. There doesn't seem to make room for, words and all that. And there seems to be all that back and forth. And to me, I thought that would have changed with the style of person that Charlotte is. So I'm surprised that she comes with that style. And we are still having that same approach as before. So there was a thought that came to me and said, look, is it because that there is a sort of cast in stone way in EC? That no matter what the kind of person you are, when you get there, you now get modified into that sort of person. And I don't think that's what it is. They should learn to listen
learn to give in, because look, who are all these for? She means well. I'm sure everybody means well, but the reason that nobody seems to understand is that it's not being communicated well. Two, people feel that at this point, though you had good intentions, because it's been tainted, let it go.
Okay. Yesterday, I don't know if you read the Daily Graphic report, her interview that she granted. You could tell the frustration in her voice. Why are people doing this to us? What have we done wrong? She kept asking.
Well, she should ask, what are they? What are she's new to the point. You see, this EC thing is from time to time. It's never stopped. It's institutional memory. And people are there. They know. People have not forgotten 2013. People have forgotten the Supreme Court, Afro-Region understand and all that. So look, let her come in and bring a fresh resolve to the problem. When people have problems, listen and act.
Okay, all right. Mr. Same on the heels of the statement by
Professor Marty. He says that the EC should stop the mistakes.
Stop the mistake. And,
no,
also
I want to join.
too much.
How do the lawyer say? I want to join myself to Professor Marty.
Okay, sure.
That we are in an election year.
Sure.
And the levels of suspicion and the mistrust between the citizenry represented by the political parties and the EC is too high. It's too high. Now, I'm not in a position to judge the capabilities of the chairman of the EC. I'm not in a position to do that. But I would advise that we help the processes. And if we have issues with the processes, we should engage the way we are doing. But the whole thing of vilifying the commissioner or the chairman of the commission, you know, I don't know to which end we do that. You know, to the extent that people put superimpose her on an NDC poster that she's an NDC candidate, and all that kind of thing. And in fact, I don't think it's fair to ourselves as a nation. Mind you, we are in quote and unquote competition with other countries for integrity and credibility of elections. I mean, if the EC does something which is wrong, we should engage them and point it out to them. If it even requires that we go to court or Supreme Court, we should do so. But the issue of maligning and vilifying personalities, I think we've gone beyond that.
We should deal with the commission.
We should deal with the issues.
Not problem.
Because look, people went to court, voters register, somebody has gone to court. This is democracy. But this thing of, oh, she's this, she has done that.
But should we get to the point where we are always going to court?
Well, until we find an equilibrium, yes.
Well, but that's the point. We thought that with the
but
leaving
you
of
have to insult the person before you go to court.
I don't suppose any of that, but my point is that with the leaving of Afro-Region, some of us thought that with the new approach, maybe let's not always go to court for the court.
Even in the United States of America 2016, people are still going to court on electoral issues.
You see,
quick one,
Bridget,
yes.
if you just let me, this is a personal word to Mrs. Charlotte Osei, without any prejudice, to a person. I think that we all understand that as the chairman of the commission, she needs to be assertive, she needs to be tough. But in seeking to do so, she must be minded that her assertiveness and her toughness must, be clothed in law.
Okay.
And that if you overdo certain things, it will tend to be seen as, some form of...
I think in all these things, we all have lost out on the real mission of this steering committee.
Sure.
Yes.
The mission of the steering committee is just lost out on all of us.
Because it hasn't been told, it hasn't been communicated to us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And indeed, if it hasn't been communicated to us, what's our fear?
Okay.
All right. Because of the suspicion.
Why should it be set up?
No, it is because of the mistrust that we are talking about. So if there's transparency and proper communication, then we'll all be at peace.
All right, thank you very much. By the way, my colleague Kamala Kluche sent me this that indeed the Electoral Commission is on Facebook, Twitter. So if you are interested in the election, and it should be, you can follow them on Twitter. It's at EC Ghana or Electoral Commission of Ghana if you're on Facebook as well. And they even have videos on.
Is it verified?
It's not yet verified. Not yet verified.
I mean, why not? The Electoral Commission of Ghana. You have a Facebook account which is not verified. What are you talking about?
I doubt if they know the verified.
But they
will get there. We'll get there.
No,
Mr. Mensah, we'll get there.
Because people can clone.
I guess people absolutely. I agree with you on that score. We have a. We have just about 13 minutes, and there are two stories I want us to talk about. This occultism in basic school, and also the story about the mining policy that we understand. Ghana launches its minerals policy, and the long-awaited minerals policy has been launched with the aim of ensuring that mining contributes to the sustainable development of the nation. It goes on and goes. President John Mahama, on behalf of Lands said policy would help address the structural inadequacies in the mineral industry. Good? Happy?
Well, I would want to talk about that. I want to talk about education.
No, one moment, please.
Well,
no, what do you?
I thought you said two topics.
Oh, I know, two topics. I said two topics.
I said two topics. I want to talk about education.
I did. No, I did.
Okay, come to me.
I did. So quick one. No, but
okay,
quick
come to me. I also want to talk about education.
No, you talk about one. No, you just quick comments. I mean,
quick comments on the minerals
because last week we had discussed about the issue of our water bodies being destroyed. Illegal.
You know why I don't want to talk about it? It was started in 1999. It started in 1999.
Nothing would change.
In 1999 was when it started.
And nothing would change.
It's taking us till now to pass a document. There is nothing in that law that doesn't already exist in another bylaw or somewhere else.
No, but is it a law? No, it's even a policy.
Policy.
It's a minerals and mining law. Yes. 2006, Act 703.
Yes.
We have raised issues with the law. No one is working at amending it. It is just a policy. And it's not binding on any government.
So you understand? So let's talk about education.
No problem. No, I said we'll move there. I'll do. You guys asked.
Yeah, but
I think that the point I was really sad.
The point that Kojo is making is that we seem to be doing the same things wrong.
Sure.
All the time, and we expect to get different results. So that's why how can we move on?
As we say,
I hope you have a little faith in that it will make a difference. I hope. Are you surprised? Are you surprised that 7 under investigation that's Mary Efriye SDH occultism in basic school? What concerns you most about
SDH school?
Yeah, and they were recruiting people. So one person who is he is widely known that's what he does, recruiting people. They chant, and the reason when I was reading the story, they want to get quick money.
Sakawa.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you see, when we subscribe to a certain constitution, you see, we build our own constitution. I mean, when I'm a Christian and I'm a born-again Christian, when you say occultism, what does that mean? What is occultism? And when you say you are investigating, for me, the fact that I disagree with somebody's religion ends there.
Sure.
And nothing can be done to the person because there's freedom of choice of religion.
Association, yeah.
Not until the practice of that religion derives somebody's independence or infringes on somebody's freedom or against somebody's human rights.
Do you think their age is a problem?
Well, I'm making a point of human rights or abuses. Okay. Now, in all these things, if I see, somebody's human rights being trampled upon, somebody being abused, all these things that have rootings in our constitution are being sacrificed, then there's a problem.
Sure.
But the fact that somebody professes another religion, which is not mine by itself, shouldn't be an issue for investigation.
Okay. All right. When I saw the story, when I was reading, I was hoping, I thought maybe they had done something, like bloody related. Well, I didn't see it. No, I read the story.
If there's an abuse, if all these things coming, then of course we have to investigate. But the fact that somebody says I'm a magician and I've commanded something to come and it's against my religion, you should continue commanding things.
Okay, so away from mining, your thoughts on it, that the school says they are investigating them because they were chanting.
It's from Monpontin, and Monpontin is my area. That's why.
I see.
Very soon I'll be Royal of Monpontin, and you can't be HRH. You have to call him HRH.
Yes, His Royal Highness. Yes, please.
Now, you see, the point I'm trying to make here is that, look, education and the youth, there is becoming a bit of a disparity. The youth think that Sakawa, which everybody now seems to glamorize it in that level, okay, what they are doing is that they are doing all this occult thing because they think that it will bring them money, what people are seeing as Sakawa. It's fraud. What these boys are doing, these kids don't know. It's not these rituals that is giving these boys money. It is fraud, credit card fraud, bank fraud. Okay, our security agencies are not cracking down on this fraud. Look, if you travel today, you as a Ghanaian citizen, if your destination is Ghana, you can't use a credit card. Okay, the president said that he wanted to make Ghana a cashless society. But that very effort is being bastardized by this credit card fraud, internet fraud, and all these sakawa that people are talking about. The security agencies should take a hard look. And there are some reports, I don't know how far that is true, that some security agencies are even conniving with some of these boys, because when the money is transferred, no, it's serious. Because it's TV3. No, I said, I don't know how far it's true.
They could look at it.
You see, then the police are leaving. Monies are transferred into the country, into the bank account, through internet credit card transfer. And somebody goes into the bank to open accounts, and then that money is put in that account. And in some instances, I'm told that the account is frozen by the security services, and it's conniving, and the money is taken out, and they take their share, and they give the boys their share, and it's going on. And I said, I don't know how far it's true.
I don't know. Are you surprised that? I mean, as young as age.
I don't know how that's
with this story,
because it is
they
say that they're trying to they say they're trying to
get quick money.
Yeah, but don't go to the TV channels around. People who call themselves pastors.
Have you seen the holy water that gives you rich money? Have you seen
Isn't that occultism?
Yes, but
isn't that? But we look at, you see, we sit and look at them because they call themselves pastors, and we go and investigate somebody because he's called occultist.
But sometimes, hold on, are you not worried that? Are you not worried that person is 13?
No. I'm troubled. I'm not saying that I endorse it.
Sure, I get the point. You've already said differences of opinion. You've said that.
The investigation is what I'm saying. That. So if the person comes and says, I am 12-year-old, but I am a fetish.
Okay. I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm looking at
with the orientation of the fetishism. Do you investigate the person because he's 12? That's all I'm saying.
All right.
But if it infringes on the rights, it abuses somebody, it takes somebody's human rights.
Sometimes you've made that point, so you've made that point. Thank you. So you end by 30 seconds, then you have the floor.
No, I just think that the bigger picture should be looked at, because it's the glamorization of the sakawa that people, but the true nature of what these boys are doing is fraud.
Sure.
Okay, and it's what the little ones are looking at and saying, look, if these boys are doing, let's do it and get quick money. There's no quick money. Nobody do that and get quick money.
But your pastors are doing it on TV. That's also fraudulent. Well, nobody is saying it.
Oh, there's a holy water that when you get,
I've seen it. I've seen it. It's fraudulent. We should deal with those so-called pastors first.
Personally, I was concerned because I saw the age. 13, and they chant and they.
Yeah, matters of religion are personal, but we live in a society.
Okay.
And that is why you have institutions. I would speak first here as an Adventist.
Sure.
And I want to believe it is the school's administration that is even taking up the matter.
Yes.
Adventism do not encourage occultism. So it being an Adventist institution, even though I know many of these religious institutions that were set up have been turned almost secular, we still have our principles apply in those institutions. So to that extent, I would encourage this. But you see, I agree with Kwajo when he makes a point that the genesis of most of these occultic behavior and all that is a quick way to life, not only money. Sometimes they are under the impression that you engage in that and you can pass your exam. There's some magic that, you may not be learning, but on the day of writing the exam, some supernatural force will, give you the answers to produce.
Sure.
And for some reason they believe and practice these things. What we need to teach the young in our Ghanaian society is that there's no easy way to life.
Sure.
And that even if you make it so easy to life, the end thereof is not something you would enjoy. I think those are principles of life that we must teach, our young people. And also look at the broader picture of having a more richer society where we care for one another. it does appear that in Ghana today, we are becoming, so egoistic and inward looking that I don't care what happens to Kojo's children. I don't care what happens to Sammy's kids. But we used to live a society where everybody was everybody's father. Okay. Also, every man was everybody's father, and that every mother was everybody else's mother. And we cared for one another and took care of and checked one another without necessarily somebody getting angry. I think when we take a holistic look at this, as Mr. Governor Greenstreet will be, rolling out today,
all right.
We will get to the bottom of this.
All right. Thank you very much. And the final one actually is linked to the whole Christian thing about there was a speech that was read on behalf of President John Dramani Mahama, and he asked the leadership of the Catholic Bishop in West Africa to ensure that its social teachings influence government. This is the part I like, where he said that for development to take place in Africa, there was a need for the leadership of the Christian community to align its teachings to directly address issues that posed a threat to nation building. Pastors here to address issues that pose threats to nation building. Yes, well, I mean, you want pastors to do that, but Otabil speaks and becomes something else.
Well, Otabil is a motivational speaker. Okay. If you take what he says out of context, that is your problem. But I think that he speaks well and he says what he wants to say. If he wants his people to rise above mediocrity, who are you to now say otherwise? One of the things that I want to slip into this is what Kofi Annan said, that legalize we. I think we discussed this. No. I'm vindicated because I sat here with Napo and I think the other MPs.
Thank you. Your time is up. 20 seconds.
Just 1 second. You see, it's time we look at this issue.
Thank you.
Kofi Annan has said it. I have said it. Maybe Sammy will put a word to it, and let's get it on.
Thank you. 20 seconds on the role pastors play in nation building. I mean, we cannot understate that, but then when you have some speaking.
I don't know about pastors. I know about regulations and laws. If you're a pastor and you steal, they will take you to court.
Sure.
If you're a pastor and you misconduct yourself, they will take you to court. I'm saying that we see certain class of people who profess to be pastors, prophets, whatever, doing magic on TV, and we watch them like that. And some of us are members of such societies. We have nothing against that one.
Sure.
It is the root of our problem, because we most of Ghanaians grow up with church orientation.
Sure, absolutely.
And so we can't even, that's why when you criticize a pastor, hey, he's a pastor, don't touch him. Because of our upbringing.
Yeah.
But when somebody calls himself a pastor and there's no regulation, there's nothing that stops anybody from calling themselves pastors.
All right. Thank you very much. A very big thank you. Unfortunately, I have to. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
So I'm the one yesterday.
They found 50 bags of food in some other.
We ran out of time here, and a very big thank you. No, I have to go. Thank you, CEO of City FM.
When Bank of Ghana is the only
Kwabena Monfe is the director of elections, CPP, and also the energy expert here, Kojo Safwa Poku. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning.